to the first show, which is the foundation,
Good.
to find out exactly how everything started. So, what is cancer? Well, the origin of the word actually came from the father of medicine. His name was Hippocrates, and he was a Greek physician, and he called cancer carcinos. And he actually had patients coming to him with these tumors, and as he examined the tumors, they looked like crabs. So that's where the crab and the cancer correlation comes in. So that's just a little history of where the word came from. And also, as far as how long cancer has been around, well, the ancient Egyptians noted the first case back 3,500 years ago. So cancer has been around for a long time.
Good Lord.
Yes.
So this stuff, I usually on my show, I like to talk about the backstory of stuff. Because I think we are aware of what's going on today, but we don't know where stuff came from today.
Exactly.
We just don't know. That's why I like watching the History Channel, because it tells you, it talks about the history. And what's the old saying? If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Mm-hmm. And some history I don't want to repeat. Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you're a nerd.
And the fact that I'm a
it's
chief.
A good thing.
I'm a chief nerd. Get it right.
Okay, chief nerd. Okay, so how does cancer start? Well, in our bodies we have 1 trillion living cells. And these cells grow, they divide, they make new cells, and they die in an orderly way. So during a normal person's life, as they're growing, the normal cells are growing, they're dividing to allow a person to grow. And then after a person becomes an adult, most cells divide only to replace worn out cells or dying cells, or they're replacing injured cells. So when cancer starts, actually the cells grow, new cells grow, but they continue to grow. And they don't die at all. They just continue to grow. They don't divide. And then it attaches itself to tissue, which is something the normal cell cannot do. And when it's attaching itself to tissue, that means that it's spreading, which is metastasized cancer.
That's that word.
Yeah. He was like,
That's
funny.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people want to know, can cancer be prevented? Well, according to the American Cancer Society, there is no sure way to prevent cancer, but they have things that you can do to reduce your risk and your odds of cancer ever occurring, if it's found in the early stages, because that's when it's most treatable, and that's when the treatment is most likely to be successful.
So people are trying to eat healthier, and some of them get cancer, which tells us that it's not necessarily because you don't know what to eat, what not to eat, as it pertains to cancer, it seems.
Well, no, that's not true.
Okay.
They tell you what you can eat.
Gotcha.
It's different things that you can do to eat so that it won't eliminate your risk for getting cancer. Let me just say that. That's what they say. But it's certain foods that can certainly decrease your risk of developing cancer, and they call them cancer-fighting foods.
Gotcha.
So foods like vitamin D, salmon, and I know you love salmon.
Ooh, Lord. Yes,
eggs, beans, nuts, low-fat food, a low-fat diet. Vitamin A, things like carrots, sweet potatoes.
That's carotene.
Green leafy vegetables.
Yeah.
And then vitamin E has been clinically proven to slow the growth of cancer cells in the ovaries for people who get ovarian cancer. So, and you can have a diet rich in fiber. You can do cereal, vegetables. So it's a lot of, and fruits and vegetables, there's a lot of things you can eat. It said it would decrease your risk, but it doesn't eliminate it.
Okay, that makes sense. Because it seems like every time I see a commercial or go to a grocery store and you'll read ingredients or advertising on a certain product, they'll say, risk of cancer, and they'll put something in there saying that this will help promote or for instance, you look at some of the products that seem like it promotes cancer. I think there was a little thing about sugars that you go to a restaurant, you see the sweet and low, opposed to what's some of the sugar products other than the regular sugar? They had a little package, Splendor, right?
I just use the regular
sugar. The regular sugar, me too. I do too. But some of them said the doctors keep changing what these things. At one point, red wine is good. 2 months later, red wine is not good.
Well, red wine is good, but it's all in moderation. Any alcohol actually increases your risk of breast cancer. It says it increases it by 10%. So it says 1 standard drink per day is what you should be consuming.
Gotcha. If you drink.
If you drink.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So.
And it's not a drinking show, so we don't.
No, it's not.
We don't talk about drinking.
We're drinking water.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the risk factors that come with breast cancer? Well, cancer, period, all have different risk factors. And a risk factor is anything that affects your chances of getting a disease, such as cancer. So, there are different risk factors that come with cancer. It says breast cancer risk is factors that you can't even change. So even though you can try to eat right, you can limit your alcohol intake. It's some risk factors that you cannot change, such as gender. It says simply being a woman is the main risk factor for developing breast cancer. And then you talked about the men. It says men can develop breast cancer, but the disease is about 100 times more common among women than men. So
these are some stats I wasn't ready for.
Oh, that's okay. So your family history is a risk factor as well. If you have a first degree relative, a mother, sister, daughter with breast cancer, it almost double your chances of getting breast cancer.
First degree, you say?
Yes.
Wow.
If you want to call in, the number is 773-675-5906. We would love to hear from you. It could be your race could play a big part, because we know our race. Oh my goodness, it seems like we get every single thing. But I'm not even going to blame it on race. I'm going to blame it on just us not being healthy, not selecting the right choices when we eat, not exercising. I think all of that, not going to the doctor, I think all of that plays a role in that.
Yeah.
Because it says we get it, and it's like 40% chance of us, we die more. Even though white women have more incidence of breast cancer, but we as African Americans tend to die from it.
Yeah, I read that. That's scary.
Very.
There's something in our gene pool. There's something about healthcare that we don't have access, or some of us don't want access because we really do have access. Some of us just can't afford. Or where there's fear there. There's so many things that play a part. Seems like. Yes.
Everybody's looking at me like,
yeah, because you came to the mic like you want to say something, man.
Hi, Lady Michelle.
Hello, Alvin.
Hi, this is your engineer for tonight, Alvin. I might be your permanent engineer. I don't know.
I hope so.
But I am the news director here at UBM Networks, and I want to welcome you aboard.
Thank you.
You bring a great topic and a great format that I think is sorely needed in our community, especially among the faith community, because I don't think we talk about this enough in the church, and, we talk about, God being the master healer and everything. And this is one of those challenges that we have to bring up in order to understand where our faith really is, because, I can tell from experience a lot of the successes in overcoming cancer, like you did, has to start with one's faith. And that, more than anything, has been able to help a lot of survivors overcome whatever cancer it may be, even the pediatric cancers, because those are the most vulnerable ones of the bunch, and if they can come through it, who's to say anybody else can? Going back to some of the factors that we were talking about in the African American community, one of the big ones is environment, especially in the big cities, and then especially if you're a community that is within distance of a factory that releases very harmful carcinogens. We were talking about carcinos way back with Hippocrates. That's one of the main factors of why African Americans, by and large, die from their cancers more than any other socioeconomic group, even though those groups have higher incidence.
Right.
The access to healthcare is also a major part of it, and that's one of the things that we upstairs on the news side are attacking, because we know those exist. But this is about this form here that you have is about being able to overcome it by just fighting it, and I wish you the best of luck in giving people the will to fight cancer, because you did it.
Yes.
You absolutely did it. So welcome aboard and the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Yes, as I was doing my research, I found that even cosmetics that we purchase as women has cancer-causing agents in it. So sometimes it's good to be natural, ladies. Sometimes.
Cosmetics.
Not all the time, sometimes. Things like, which really surprised me, was having children. It says women who does not have children, or who have their first children at an early age, they have a higher risk of breast cancer. So, but the type of cancer I had was a triple negative cancer. Having babies later in life increase your risk.
Wait, you said having children early in life.
It says women who have not had children, or who had their first child at an early age, like before 30. They have a slightly higher risk of breast cancer overall.
If you had it before 30.
Yes.
Okay, and that was you?
I had 2 before 30.
I see. And your risk is higher.
Yeah,
before 30.
I was all over the place. I had 2 before 30,
Sure.
and then I had 3 after. 2 after, and then 1 in my 40s.
Were you at another greater risk after 30?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's strange.
I know. Yes.
I would think it'd be greater after, as the older you are.
Right.
That is so. That seemed like that discourages.
Yes, because a lot of ladies are waiting later in life to have babies because of careers and everything. So, yeah, ladies, you need to start earlier. Find your Boaz earlier if that's what you want.
Yeah, but then it says that your risk of cancer is greater earlier.
Exactly.
So I don't think we should be not trying to have children because we're trying not to risk getting cancer.
Right. Oh, no, not at all.
Not saying that at all.
No.
But since we're talking about cancer, that's just one of the things we need to talk about. That's one of the risks. But I think if you're doing other stuff in your life, healthy,
yes,
then I don't think your risk gets lower and lower if you're trying to have a child before 30. Right. It seems like to me.
That was very styling for me. It also talked about breastfeeding, which, they promote breastfeeding in the hospital all the time. They want you to breastfeed. But breastfeeding, I found that it says some studies suggest that breastfeeding may slightly lower the risk of breast cancer if you breastfeed between 1.5 to 2 years. But they said in the African American community, or just in the United States, period, women have gotten away from breastfeeding.
Yep.
I breastfed every last one of my babies a year, and one for 2 years, which was your god baby.
All right. That's why she's so smart. Smart girl. And she speaks with a British accent. I can't even do it. I went Czechoslovakian on it right there.
So, ladies, if you breastfeed for at least a year, they say, but, it could decrease your risk of getting breast cancer.
That's something to talk about, the whole breastfeeding situation.
Yeah.
You do a whole show on that.
But you know what? It's so funny because I had just finished breastfeeding my last baby in May, and then I was diagnosed in November. And so that really alarmed me because I'm just like, was the cancer there?
Right, exactly.
You know, but the type of cancer that I had, it was a fast-growing cancer, so it's a possibility that it wasn't
sure
at that time. So
right.
yeah.
And I know I don't want